right, Sarah Blackwood, Juno award-winning, multi-platinum selling musician, singer-songwriter, also known as my sister, Sarah Blackwood. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Bean.
Oh, now the secret's out on that one too. Bean. Wait, before we even, let's explain that.
Okay.
Bean, let's explain it.
I'm probably the only person that calls you that.
Yeah, you are.
Left. When I was little, I couldn't say baby Ian, so it came out as Bean. There's different variations of the name. Bean, Beaner, Beansnog, Beaner Snuggers.
It's funny because you've kept it, and but you've kept it with all the diction. Like you actually, sometimes I think you're half convinced, or maybe even more, that that's actually my name.
You're as Bean in my phone. So
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, people.
Yeah.
My sister, she calls me Bean. Sarah, you've had, I mean, we can talk the last few years, especially with Walk Off the Earth and how, I mean, man, you guys have just exploded. But I think what listeners and viewers want to know is, some people may not know you started as a coffee house gigger in like Whistler, of all places in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And then you and Jen, our oldest sister, Jen, JB, shout out. You guys played in two of the same bands, actually. Because you played in Thule for a little while.
Oh, yeah. I was like, well, what was the other one? The other one was the bigger one.
You played in this, it was like early to mid 2000s sort of pop rock girl group called Thule.
All girl pop rock.
And Jen I remember she had auditioned for the band. She actually borrowed most of my gear.
Yeah.
We really wanted to make it look good. So I lent her everything from like my Gibson SG, my Marshall, like I just lent her everything. She got the gig the day that she tried. Yeah. Anyway, she did some touring and playing with them, and then I guess it came down to time she just decided she was going to move on, and you ended up playing in that band for a bit.
I know. I can't even remember how that all happened now, trying to think back to how that switch happened, because I think Jen was actually out of the band for a little while. And then I was living with her and Claire.
Right.
Claire was the bass player. And then I think they were like, oh, we're doing a tour and we need another. I can't remember, but yeah, we both played in Thule. I
remember you playing at you played at the Rivoli, I remember, in Toronto.
And Warped Tour, at one Warped Tour show we did.
You had a yellow Telecaster, I remember that. We bought it at Steve's Music.
I love that guitar. I don't know what happened to that guitar. I think I sold it to somebody at Squirrely's in Toronto.
But so
probably needed the money.
And after Thule had, Jen had left Thule, she started a band called the Creepshow. And then after Jen, it was time for Jen to move on as well. You got the phone call, the sister phone call that said, "Hey, do you want to take my spot and you want to fill in the shoes?" Because I mean, it's a tough job to fill singer's shoes, but perfectly enough, you're the sister, so it's like it just makes sense.
Yeah, it was funny. It's funny actually. Now that I think back to all of the everything that happened in that whole time frame. I mean, my when I was writing music when I was younger as a teenager, I mean, you and Jen wrote and played music more than I did actually. But I
started. I'm going to make it that for the record.
First. I was very reserved, very shy. I did not have a lot of confidence, and I always really admired you and Jen and the confidence that you guys. I mean, you were always playing in bands since you were like 10.
Yeah.
Or 11, since you got your first guitar. Really.
Yeah, I was. There was talent shows in grade 7 and 8.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really call them bands, but I mean, you can kind of.
Well,
sure, okay.
Yeah. And then Jen was always a really good songwriter. I remember just listening to her play songs in her room. And I mean, I was the younger sister. She was older. She was more popular. She was prettier. She got all the guys. Like she was, and I think our sibling, not rivalry, but just our competition was stronger. So initially, when I got asked by them to take over for her because she got pregnant, I didn't want to. Because,
the Creepshow.
Yeah, for the Creepshow, because I didn't want to, because I was actually starting to break out of my own shell as an acoustic artist. so doing those open mics in Whistler and then moving to Toronto and forcing Ian to actually move into an apartment with me. I was
That's
like,
right.
if you want to be an actor, you need to move to the city. You can't do it from Burlington.
Which
You
she
have
was
to
100% correct. And I had the plans to do it. Sarah was about 6-7 months early on calling me. But it was good because it was the kick in the butt that I needed, because it was exactly all of the reasons why my acting career started and why the things worked out. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Hey,
it was the
man.
kick in the butt that I needed to get out of Burlington and get into the city and get moving. So
Everyone needs a little shove.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually how we get better and at things and do the things that
progress
we really
better,
want to do, is when you're pushed into them, just like kind of, okay, well, I'm going to do this now,
Yeah,
or I'm
to
not.
the lions, right? They say,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. To the lion.
Which it's true though. I mean, I remember learning like Pro Tool, like becoming a producer and working with certain people, and I was kind of terrified to start becoming an engineer type. And all of a sudden, one day, I just had to do a gig because there was no one else available, and I had to basically say to the studio, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." And I had to kind of Forrest Gump my way around the Pro Tools, but not let anyone know and pretend. And then that was it's right. You just you throw it to the lions and you just figure it out.
You do it, and then you get better at it. And so initially when they asked me, I didn't want to do it because I was actually really happy with the way things were going with me. I was doing a lot of open mics. I was getting actual shows. I mean, I was getting paid $25 or $50 or like a bar tab at the time. But I was feeling good about the way I was developing as a solo artist. But then they mentioned Europe for 6 weeks, and I had never been to Europe. And you know, Jen was always so incredible on stage. If you ever saw the Creepshow perform before I was in the band, she was something to watch for sure. She was really good at what she did. So I was
everything down to the outfits and like the dolls hanging from the
banter.
The mic stand.
Yeah, the whole thing was actually that's what really inspired me, and even still inspires me to this day. I'm a very visually stimulated person, and the fact that she had all that stuff, her mic stand looked like a candy cane, and like these type of things. Just so much thought was put into them, and I admired that. And there was a part of me inside that was like, the kind of music they were playing was exciting and loud and yelly and something I'd never done before.
Angsty, yeah. It was a good time in your life, right? Of course. That's the good thing about punk rock, the psychobilly stuff, is that it kind of exercises those demons, right?
Totally. That's exactly what it did. And to say the least, I mean, you should see we've had conversations about some of the bands that we played with.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a true fan of the actual genre itself.
Right.
I liked
just
rockabilly
fit the mold
music
so well, the voice, and you picked it up. It was almost you were playing a part in some ways. You were almost kind of acting, you know. And I mean a little bit of being a front woman, front man, front person, gender neutral. Is about it's about acting. There's a little bit of acting in there for sure, right?
100%.
And in this case, it was almost as if you had to embrace it even more in the fact that it was like almost maybe one of the harder characters, is that because you just weren't really a huge fan of the genre anyway.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, is cool. Is interesting to be out there now in the world, because people are going to be like, "What?"
Well, yeah, I mean, and it can get real serious, especially when you go to Europe and you see like these psychobilly bands, like you have to be 100% psychobilly or whatever, all of that stuff.
And some of them are insanely talented, and man, like their fan bases are strong and dedicated. It's so cool. Yeah,
super dedicated. Every genre of music has its solid dedicated fan base, and that one is strong. And so I just kind of like put the dress on, put the creepers on.
Yeah. I remember you had the guitar higher, but then eventually the guitar got nice and low.
Because the guys would lower it without me knowing every single rehearsal or practice. And then I started to bring an element of punk rock into the sound, because as soon as we kind of made the change and implemented all of that, and I started to feel more comfortable, then it was like, well, we have to write a new album.
Yeah.
And we have to like move on from the old singer into the new singer with actual songs. And so that's when the pressure was on, but also that's when I got to be more free. And that's when I started to feel more like I was actually a part of the band, was when I got to put more of my spin on it. And I think that's when the music started to turn more punk rock. And some people liked it and some people didn't. And some people wanted Jen back and some people were loving what we were doing.
I mean, I guess there's always going to be that backlash of
Always.
you're not the OG. It's like Roseanne with Becky when Becky left, and then they got Sarah Chalk.
It happens all the time with
I hope I got that
bands.
character name right. I think it was Becky.
Second Becky.
Second Becky. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Exactly. But there's always going to be that controversy, and there's always going to be people who like what you're doing better and that type of thing. So I think as far as that transition went, we handled it pretty well. It was really exciting and really interesting. And it really did, doing all those years in a punk band that actually had a really great following. We toured 10 months out of the year.
Oh, you guys
know.
I remember just being in awe of like, man, look at her go. Like there's my sis who was, playing in a little Smiling Buddha or a coffee house in Whistler, going up there playing a couple Blue Rodeo songs with her bro.
Yeah.
And then here she is, selling out Reverb, selling out Opera House eventually. Like it was so cool. And you're texting me or emailing me photos from these festivals you're playing. There's thousands of people, and I just thought, wow,
yeah,
that's so cool, man.
Yeah. And then within all of that, I was still exploring myself as a solo artist. As you know, you recorded my first album with me
on GarageBand. So people on GarageBand out there, it's a great program. Obviously,
it's even better now.
It is, yeah. It's It's a great starter program. There's nothing wrong with GarageBand, man. Never talk smack on that program. It's great. You did a cool little folk record on it.
Yeah, it's a great platform.
You were hustling, man. Like
I was really hustling.
You were hustling.
I was not working at the time, and that was a point in my life where I decided to quit my jobs, all of them, and just do music. Wow. And I lived off my line of credit and my credit cards. And I remember like sitting in my apartment, calling my credit card company and being like, "Can I get more money?
Can I have more?"
Can I have
And I mean, it was like,
these?
it was the perfect time because I feel like it was around, 2006, 7, 8, 9-ish era where like everyone was just racking up the credit anyway. And they're like, yeah, sure, let's do this. It'll never crash.
Yeah. I went hard. I went really hard. I remember that for that whole summer, probably 2008, I think it was 2007, 2008, and just worked on those records. And we did Run for Your Life, and I did my solo record Way Back Home, and started to do both of those things. So not only was I doing Creepshow, if Creepshow had a 3-week tour in Europe, I would go 2 weeks before and do a 2-week solo tour and then hop on and do the 3 weeks of Creepshow. So it was, I just wanted to be doing it so badly and in every way that I could, and it was working.
That's the hustle. And you were selling merch, slinging merch from the stage, I remember too.
I was slinging merch from the stage. I was printing my own merch, printing my own merch, recording our own albums, doing our own artwork, everything. Like Erin, Ian's wife, she does all our my photos. She's been doing them for many years. Artwork for albums and posts. Like we were hustling. We were all hustling. Yeah.
Like true entrepreneurship. It was like,
yeah, absolutely. And learning, at the same time, I was learning how to edit. I was learning editing programs, and I was learning how to record. I did record some of that album.
That's
myself.
right. I remember I'd leave you. I would leave you with it. I'd say just press this button and then this button and then go. And you would record a bunch of things, and then I come back, and I mean, editing on GarageBand, I will say, is not like Pro Tools at all. But so there must be, Sarah. We got to talk. It's a true hustler story. Like you're out there, you're grinding. But I mean, let's talk a bit of the touring, because I remember like there's got to be some downtime shows. Like there's got to be some stories there where you were just like, oh my God, what are we doing? What am I doing?
Absolutely.
Let's hear one.
A lot. It's funny because when you're playing a festival, you can go to Europe and play a festival in front of 20,000 people and have the best time ever. And you have this huge fan base. And then you can go to another club somewhere in the United States. And, I remember changing into my show clothes in like the dungeon.
Yeah. Literally.
Cement floors, dirty walls, dicks drawn on every single wall.
Yeah.
Stuff everywhere, dirty, and they don't feed you, and you don't get food, and you're getting paid. I mean, I would like to look back and say that we were getting decent guarantees by the end of it, but you get paid $200 or $300 for a show.
Totally.
And there's 5 of you and you're traveling in a van and you're sleeping in the van. Like there's, oh my gosh, like we've talked about this. I could write books on the places that I've stayed.
Yeah.
But I do remember when I started to come to the end of having a good time doing that.
Sure.
And just feeling like for 2 albums, I had wanted to make them bigger and, go from here to here.
Yeah.
And
you wanted to change the dungeon with the
producers.
dicks on the wall. You wanted to change
Yes,
that. You wanted
yes.
to, yeah.
I wanted to write Our Tragic Kingdom. I wanted to go from a rockabilly punk rock band with a very solid underground fan base following to breakthrough Distillers, No Doubt.
Tragic
type
Kingdom, by the
status.
way, Sarah's referring to is like the epic No Doubt album that came out in the 90s. Tragic Kingdom, fantastic record. Absolutely song for song, fantastic.
Just broke them from
Ska band.
ska band,
Orange County
which is
ska
awesome.
band.
Orange
Totally
County
awesome.
ska band,
Totally
awesome.
Yeah.
To international superstars, and
That was your vision, huh?
I wanted that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to be bigger.
You
I
should
wanted
want
everything
that.
I was doing to be bigger, and that's always what's kept me going, no matter what project I'm doing. So, honestly, I felt held back because. I mean, there was a lot of different things,
Sure.
but mostly because it was so hard to try to achieve that and still make money at the same time.
Yeah.
Because any money you get for a record, you have to put towards rent. You can't hire the producers you want to hire to help you write the record that you want or make the record that you want, because everybody needs money. And not everybody that you're surrounded by always has the same drive. And I feel like if you really want to get up there, you need to surround yourself with people who have unlimited expectations of what their careers could be,
Right.
and won't settle.
Right. Won't settle. That's a big phrase there, is won't settle.
Yeah.
I think people lose sight. They get somewhere and then and there's not, hey, man, we also can both agree that if you're playing the Opera House for the rest of your life, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's fantastic. Because I mean, that's not a small success story. Playing a play, like, I mean, bands like Nirvana played at the Opera House and they did it, and that's super cool. But I think the fact that you want that drive to continue, and I think that's the fire to stay lit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think there's just certain types that want it to continue to then stoke it and get it bigger. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, let's talk about that fire being lit, because all of a sudden one day you woke up and I got a phone call from you. You said our video, a video went viral. And I was like, are you sick? Like, what's wrong? What is viral? I don't even know. I mean, people were talking about it as a joke. They're like, make a viral video. I didn't even know what that meant. And then you said it's spreading. It's getting bigger by the minute, by the second. Every hour it's getting more and more views. The views are frozen. I didn't even know. You were speaking a different language to me almost at the time. I was like, I don't know what any of this stuff means.
Yeah.
But that was a huge day. You guys woke up. You had released the 5 People, One Guitar Gautier cover with Walk Off the Earth. You were still playing in the Creepshow, and that night you were actually headlining.
Yeah.
Probably one of the biggest Toronto shows you've ever played, right?
That was at the Opera House.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did it feel like? Like waking, like all those little like viral video, frozen views. Like this is the kind of the first time this ever happened, right? This is the first time this happened for Walk Off the Earth. Is that correct? Yeah. So.
Yeah. So going into all of that was a lot of hard work. Like I mentioned, so we had been touring and doing stuff, but while we were doing that, while I was doing the Creepshow, while I was doing my solo project, I also started to work with Walk Off the Earth.
You were never taking a break. I remember too, you were doing videos of going to Tim Hortons because you would drink 5-6 coffees a day. So you could stay up and get all of these things achieved.
Yeah. Not to mention, I mean, Johnny's schedule. So he was producing my second solo album, and that's how Johnny and I really kind of started to get to know each other more.
Right.
I hired him. Actually, you told me to hire him to record a vocal for this rockabilly band that wanted to do a duet. And then, anyway, so I was doing these little tour videos and putting them up on YouTube, just like documenting the Creepshow tours, giving myself something else to do so I wouldn't be so continuously thinking about where I was going to be next, or at least I was working towards something else. And at the same time, Johnny was starting to make videos at B-Town with Walk Off the Earth. And I was like, cool, let's do a video together. So we started doing that. And then the fans really liked it. I did the duet with Joan and Bobby.
Yeah. Great
with
song.
them. And
Great
I had
song.
red hair at the time.
That's right, yeah.
And it was just a really exciting time for me because I was doing more of what I really wanted to be doing.
Sure.
And I was working with people who were working towards the same goals. So it was at that point where I kind of knew that my time with the Creepshow was coming to an end. And the other members of the band knew that too. I was so done with touring. I mean, you came on the last tour with me. But I was so done with that style of touring. I was done with being exhausted. I was done with sleeping in a van, and I just wanted to move forward. And I knew that there was other things that I could be doing. So that's what I started to do. And I started cameoing in walk-off videos. And then it's funny because about 5 days before the 5 People, One Guitar video came out, I was watching one of our videos, Love Sponge, which Johnny and I had made. And we had been making videos for a year together before any of this stuff happened.
Yeah.
So we were shooting videos. So I was watching all of our videos and it ended on Love Sponge. And I was like, how are people not catching on to what's happening here? Like, this video is amazing.
And you guys would take forever. Like these videos, you would rehearse.
We would rehearse.
Yeah.
There was
It's the hustle, man.
Someone Like You, Adele, Sunburnt Hand. We did Radiohead, Karma Police.
Karma Police, yeah.
Anyway, so we were doing all this work, and I was like, why are people not catching on? Why, they were still getting 10,000 views, but why is not one of them going?
Yeah.
And then sure enough, like and I was rethinking my whole life. What am I going to do? Okay, if I teach 15 yoga classes a week, I'll make this much money and I'll be able to afford a house, but I'll be working every second of the day, and I'll probably have to stop doing music, and like really
because you're
big
also
life-changing conversation.
On top of all this hustle, you're also a certified yoga instructor. So by the way, ladies and gentlemen and people of the internet podcast world, she also is a certified, that's hilarious, certified yoga instructor. Fantastic. Like, the hustle never stops.
Which really kept my brain calm through the whole storm.
Sure.
But anyway, so 5 days later, whatever it was, we put this video out, and we wake up in the morning. I watched it the night before, and I'm like, it's okay. It's not the best video we've ever made. Apparently it was. Just resonated with people. So yeah, phone calls, emails. Oh my gosh, like Johnny.
You and Johnny had a tour booked, right?
A solo tour.
Just a solo tour. The two of you are going to do the stage thing, maybe do some guitar tossing, but playing some tunes.
It was a Sarah Blackwood solo tour, and it sold out within a day.
And you had to.
And I had to cancel it.
Of course. Yeah, business became just
right away. So that Opera House show sold out with the Creepshow, played it that night.
Yeah.
And I remember you looking at me from side stage going, 3 million views. And I was just like, stop, I can't handle. I was shaking the whole day.
Well, we went to lunch right in the Broadview, or it's like...
Yeah, that was Broadview area.
Yeah, the Eastern Ave area in the east end of Toronto where the Opera House is. We went for lunch, and you said, do you think it'll hit 1 million? And I was like, it's almost at 1 million. And I remember just before you went on stage, it hit 1 million.
Yeah.
And then you said, do you think it hit 3 million? It took like, an hour of a Creepshow set to hit 3 million or whatever. It was insane.
Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy time.
That was also an incredible Creepshow show, though. I will say,
was, and I was so proud.
You crowd surfed, like I think you guys brought a drum into the crowd or something. Like, I don't know. I was playing guitar at the end.
Yeah, it was.
You were just
we had everybody on from the crowd on the stage for the last song.
And the Dreadnoughts.
The Dreadnoughts
played. Yeah, they came up and they were playing away.
It was an amazing show.
That was my violin.
I was really proud of that, and I was really proud of where we had got to. Like 900 people or something, 1,000 people sold out in Toronto. Like that's hard to do as a local band.
Absolutely.
A punk rock local band.
And a true sellout too, like Balcony Plus. Like it was
Everything,
it was a true sellout. Yeah.
So that was just a really insane time. And then we dove into, I mean, you saw some of it. Ian worked with us for about a week and then was like, done. I can't do this.
Well, I hit the peak of I cannot do this. Like had this happened 5 years, 10 years before, no problem. But it was I started my life and my band had quit. My band had just played our last show actually months before that, and it was just like, no, man, like I mean, the press tour, I learned so much about that press tour. I also learned a lot about the music industry, and you got like, wow, like it was. And it's interesting because people say overnight success or blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you made a really good point. You guys were doing videos for a year up to that video and a year before. I mean, Walk Off the Earth has always been sort of an unconventional approach to like what we're used to in like the sort of 905 music area where you write songs, you go record wherever, you tour, maybe you have a couple of good songs. It seemed like Johnny flipped it and said, I'm going to take the unconventional way of building a band or building a thing, a business, right?
Yeah, so. which was not as known back then because that was around 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. YouTube was just starting.
Yeah, just warming up, right?
And we started to catch on. Like, oh, you can go, for Walk Off, it's like you can go to Regina and play in front of 10 people. Or we can shoot a video and 10,000 people will watch it.
I mean, look, just that
what are
alone,
we doing?
Right?
Yeah. We could be at home. We could be shooting these videos all day, being super creative because you're limited when you're on the road. You can only do so much. You can only bring so many props with you and do the similar show every night.
Right.
When you're at home, you have 1,000 video ideas.
Yeah.
You started covering songs. Those are the songs people are searching for. And people started watching them. Yeah. And so we really kind of got in at the right time when that was just a new thing. And yeah, so we had that really great moment with the Creepshow, the Opera House, and then this video started going viral. And then it was like we were sitting at a table with a bunch of people that we had hired to like work with us, like contemplating what we were going to do with our future, basically. There was a door here. I knew that if I wanted to do music for the rest of my life, this was the way I needed to go.
Totally.
So I said farewell to the Creepshow. And, the years that I spent with that band really made me who I am as a performer.
Absolutely.
And it expanded my vocal range and probably destroyed it a little bit too.
Yeah. But I'll always say like, there's something special about someone who spends a little bit of time in a punk rock band and shreds it up a little bit. And if you can just save it, like, and then maybe even take a lesson or two to get it back, you'll kind of learn, you'll learn how far you could reach, how far you could stretch it. And then that'll kind of make you special in that, like, you've experienced that octave or you've experienced that level of singing. And I think it's kind of neat, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I always say it's not me singing, it's me yelling because there's so many songs where we'll be in the recording studio. We've written them in there. When you're in the recording studio, as you know, sometimes you're just like, you know what, let's do this chorus a whole octave up.
Right.
And have Sarah try to sing it instead of having Marshall do it or whatever. Like we do a lot of that. And I remember Rule the World and I was like, guys, this is way too high for me. Like this is really high. And our producer that we were working with, Togs and Johnny, were like, just try it. Yeah. And I remember you being like that as a producer too, and doing that with the Creepshow, being like, no, I can't hit these notes. I can't hit these notes. This is too low. This is too high. And just trying it. And then like you get it and you're like, oh, okay, I can do that. And then the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it. Like now that we do it live, I can actually go higher, and I've gone higher than that. So it's a really interesting process, but I mean, we could spend hours and hours talking about all of this stuff. But I think one of the things that you probably experienced when Walk Off first got all this crazy press was we did do that press tour, and none of us really knew what to do at that level. We all knew how to put on an okay show, but remember, like half of us had in-ears and half of us wanted stage monitors at that show that we played in Berlin. So that was probably the most complicated, stressful, confusing show I've ever played. Yeah. Was that first Walk Off the Earth show in Berlin after the video blew up. And like the sound guy from the venue quit. He was like, right. I'm out of here. Yeah.
That poor German fella, probably like a front of the house genius too.
For sure he was.
Those German guys, they know everything. That was another like Everest for you guys to climb, because that was sort of the realization, because you hadn't played any shows on the press tour. You'd only been doing like talk shows.
Talk show
And you've just been doing the
performances.
performances of, so I shouldn't say no shows, but you were doing like VIP, small things,
Yeah.
but you weren't doing full-fledged hour and a half sets or anything.
And since then, it's been an incredible learning experience. Just like it was when I first joined the Creepshow. My guitar was up here,
Yep.
and to where I was, where my guitar was down here, and I was full on into like the punk rock scene. Just like that, into this pop rock band, and now we're putting on these insane productions. I think over the years our production has grown like by 1,000. We have confetti. You've seen our shows, confetti and cryo and pyro and backdrop drops and just an insane amount of lights. Like, you've seen our show. If you've seen our show, it's
huge.
We would love to have a residency of Vegas one day. That would be the goal. But it's been a real crazy roller coaster.
No kidding, man. Well, Sarah, thanks so much. I'm going to do a small little segment here. It's called The Shit I'm Into. Yeah. So, we could talk all day, but we'll keep it, we'll just have you on again in a few months. I'm sure people would love to have you back on and we can continue where we left off. But I'm going to start just to shift gears so, we can wrap it up. For people listening only, I'm holding up Super Nintendo Mini.
Yeah.
But this thing is super cool. I'm into it right now. I love the old, mid-90s Nintendo games, Super Nintendo games.
Left to right?
The
left to right's up to down.
That's down.
Done.
Done. Yeah, right. Yeah, there's you don't need headgear. You don't need to comm link and internet. Anyway, this thing's super cool. You can load it up. If you've got like a PC savvy hacker friend, you can load it up with like a ton of games. I think I got like 200 on this thing. Anyway, I think it's super fun. That's what I'm into right now. Sarah, what are you into?
Well, one thing we didn't talk about was the fact I have 3 kids.
Yes.
So I'm
3
on boys. 3 boys.
Hustling.
I'm trying to, be as involved in their world as I can. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I never really did as a kid was watch, like Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and all that kind of stuff. So that stuff I'm actually really starting to discover. And just like being into the power of their brains.
Nice.
It's incredible.
Wow.
Some of the stuff that my 4-year-old Giorgio says, or Luigi, our 2-year-old, I'm just like, it's an amazing thing to be a part of, to watch a little brain develop. And that's really what I'm into, like music. I love watching Netflix when I have 5 seconds to sit on the couch, work, all of that stuff. But those kids are those are really the best things I've ever created. Wow. So juxtapose that with my video game. Thanks. But we did just get Alexa, and she's amazing. Sarah, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. You kind of had to. You're my sister, so but I do appreciate you making time. So thank you. Anytime. Next time I come on, we'll talk about what it's like to tour with kids. Nice. And for anyone out there, Sarah, your socials and stuff, do you want to tell everybody? Most people know. But everything is Walk Off the Earth. Mm-hmm. So walkofftheearth.com /Walk Off the Earth. Instagram's Walk Off the Earth. Facebook's Walk Off the Earth. Awesome. Twitter's Walk Off the Earth. And then branching from that, I have my own socials, which is Sarah Blackwood 1 is Twitter. Mm-hmm. Sarah Blackwood Music is my Instagram. Those are the 2 that I use the most. Mm-hmm. Facebook is the Sarah Blackwood. And stay tuned because we got tons of stuff coming out. And speaking of Sarah Blackwood stuff, I'm working on a lot of acoustic cover songs and originals that will be being released, month by month this year. Nice. Which I'm working with Ian on some of them. One of them just came out. Ain't No Sunshine. Ain't No Sunshine, and All I Have to Do is Dream is up on iTunes and Spotify too. Fantastic. So. And then we're going to talk briefly about cross-branding and how to name everything one thing instead of 5 things, Sarah. That's going to be next time. Yeah. Well, what happens is the people out there, as soon as they see you're starting to get... They scoop it up. Name. They take your name. Tell me about it. I know. All I want is just one name. But there's another Sarah Blackwood out there that lives in Britain. That's right. But it's not me. Not her. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks so much. Of course. Thanks for having me. You're welcome. Bean. Blackwood talk smile.